Story 1. I grew up with unlimited free lobsters to eat. My mom's partner is a lobster buyer and would frequently get lobsters from fishermen when there were not enough to make up a crate. Story 2. I am from a small country. Nationalism is not something I have to worry about. No one here thinks that our youth should be killing or dying to fulfill some rich person's political ambition. Story 3. I have a family with many issues, but we love each other unconditionally. There's a sense of security in knowing that there is nothing I could say or do that would ever make them stop loving and supporting me. We get into our fights, but when push comes to shove, we're always there for one another. Story 4. Divorced parents who actually respect each other, get along, and never put their 4 children in the middle. I always thought that was normal growing up. Once I got older, I realized how very lucky my brothers and I are to have parents who divorced amicably. Story 5. I'm too disabled to work and had to stop working at 38, which, granted, means that I'm forever poor, but also means I will never have any work-related problem ever again. I don't need to go to work. I can't be late to work. I'm not under pressure at work. I don't hate my boss or a colleague, and so on. I can pick a hobby, any hobby, and dedicate as much time as I wish except for, disability. I can decide to learn something just for the heck of it, not because it makes sense in my career progression. The other day, I also realized that I could dye my hair any color I want, which would have been unthinkable back when I worked in politics, for instance. I'm free in many ways that are absolutely out of reach for most people my age. As long as I don't try to eat more than once a day, at least. Story 6. I was able to be a stay-at-home mom for a year and a half. My husband and I had managed to save a decent amount of money before we decided to have a baby, and I worked throughout my pregnancy. After we bought a house back in July, I went back to work part-time. I'm so grateful for the time I got to, and get to, spend with my son, and I'm even more grateful for my in-laws babysitting while my husband and I work. Story 7. This is a good reality check, and one that I needed, while I am currently in the midst of my annual seasonal depression. Here we go. Both of my parents are still alive, mentally and financially stable, and generally leave all of us alone and let us live our own lives. None of my siblings, there are 4 of us, have ever been in serious trouble with the law or faced addiction issues. They are all great parents with kids who love them and love me. I am child-free by choice, but being an uncle is the best thing in the world. I never worry about running out of money month to month. I do not worry about what the total will be at the checkout counter. I work from home. There are days where it gets very lonely, but I have the ability to get into my car and go to the public library and be around people when I need to. I have someone in my life who loves me even in those moments when I am not very likable. If something breaks in my house like the furnace, the dishwasher, or the refrigerator, I can easily replace it with money in my savings account. I get to park my car in my garage every night. I have not had to scrape snow or ice off it once this year. This has not always been the case in my life, and I never take the privilege of having a garage for granted. I have really good health insurance. My dog has lived to be 16 years old. Not many people get this much time with their dog. Even when the days are rough and I see her slipping away more and more each day, she has been with me for 16 years. I live near one of the largest cities in the United States. I can jump on a train and be downtown in 30 to 40 minutes. There are more restaurants than I could ever imagine trying. I have access to world-class museums and parks, free entertainment in the summer. I can see Broadway-caliber performances anytime I want. I can see a sporting event from every major league sport, and there is an unlimited amount of things to do in the massive suburban area I live in as well. I have worked hard for this privilege, but a lot of it also comes down to pure luck. Story 8. My mom knew the difference between being authoritative and humiliating someone. She was able to give me orders without degrading me, and I don't think a lot of people know how to do that. A lot of your parents I've met think corrective action and humiliation are the same thing. Story 9. I am substantially wealthier than most humans, and that provides a good quality of life. I am not even that rich. I do not live in a wealthy country like those in Western Europe or Northern America. It is just that most humans are quite poor. Story 10. Intelligence. A mind that makes connections, recognizes patterns, and can extrapolate from data. Critical thinking skills combined with a desire to learn. The ability to learn almost anything I try, except matrices. Story 11. Gorgeous wife privilege. Seriously, if you have a stunningly attractive wife, people tend to take you very seriously. I'm an idiot and lucky as can be, but I'll gladly accept the advantage. Story 12. I don't look my ethnicity and speak multiple languages. I can eavesdrop on so many conversations because people don't realize I understand what they are saying about me or others of my ethnicity. It's always fun to comment in a flawless accent in their language for them to take a hike. Story 13. I don't know about a majority, but a lot of people do not have a dependable family to fall back on. If I need extra money, a vehicle, or a shelter, if things go bad, I can count on my sister and mom. A lot of people have to overcome or go to the streets. Story 14. Not having to work. Oh, and space. It's not much, but it's 10 acres, and I have 2, maybe 3 neighbors several acres away from me who don't bother me, and I don't bother them. So just peace and quiet. Story 15. I live within walking distance of my work, 6 blocks, and get to work from home twice a week. I have union representation, good health insurance, and a pension waiting for me on retirement. Story 16. Quite simply, the ability to fail at things repeatedly with no significant consequences. I have financially stable and well-off parents who have supported me and my sisters financially, to the tune of many hundreds of thousands of dollars, when you combine all of their support between the 3 of us. My parents love and support me, and have the ability to smooth out the consequences of my failures, which thankfully have been few and far between. I know that there are many people who have parents who love them just as much as my parents love me, but sadly lack the financial resources to support their kids like my parents have supported me. I know that the ability to fail is the greatest privilege I've ever had in my life. I do my best to help others, and so do my parents. They have helped many people throughout their lives. I am extremely lucky and grateful that they have helped me. They have not done everything for me, but they have allowed me to have so many more chances than most people have, and I'm very grateful for them. Story 17. I am reasonably smart and read easily and comprehensively, and have read at a high level since childhood. Illiteracy is a huge problem in the world and the United States specifically, and if someone is not naturally inclined to being book smart or a critical thinker, they are going to have a hard time navigating life well. I am barely above poverty, and I have managed to keep my family housed, fed, and bills paid through being smart and finding resources. If I were less smart, the steps I have taken to make it may never have even crossed my mind. Story 18. Living in my own house. Renting is 3 times the cost where I live. Because I bought my house at the exact right time, I now have my own house and a cheap living cost. This saves me in this horrible economy. Story 19. Work from home. Own my home. Don't worry about the cost of groceries or healthcare. Happily married. Kids are young adults doing beautifully and relatively insulated from the coming challenging years. I have a charmed life. Story 20. I've lived in and deeply understand both extremely remote, rural America and densely populated liberal cities on the West Coast. Contrast that with spending much time in Latin America. I feel more well-rounded than many people who are also often the loudest, and I know this is a deep privilege of mine to have experienced these contrasts in life and society. Story 21. My work is 2 miles from home, and everything I need is within 3 miles of my house. Not having to deal with traffic allows me to work, go to the gym, and be home in time to cook dinner for my family. Story 22. My family life is complicated, with low contact for many reasons when I am on my own. Yet, when I feel a bipolar episode creeping up, I get to stop working because I can't and move back in without worrying about rent, food, bills, just everything, and focus on getting treatment for my mental health. It is no easy task, but I am truly aware of how incredibly lucky I am not to be one of the thousands of homeless people in the United States with a mental health issue out on the streets because of our miserable for-profit health care. Story 23. I am a person with Asperger's syndrome and a bit mentally challenged. My parents don't mind if I still live under their roof. I'm in my late 30s, and my dad still drives me around town for groceries and other things. I help pay the bills and clean the house. Somehow, I'm starting to learn how to navigate life without them because they are old and someday will be gone. Story 24. One of the very few perks of working in healthcare is knowing how to navigate it. I know what to do and when to go to a doctor. I know what questions to ask and how to ask them. I know how to give a proper and quick report to get care faster. I know my rights, what should and should not be happening, and can advocate for myself. I genuinely do not know how non-healthcare people deal with our overrun, overworked healthcare system. Canadian healthcare system, not whatever mess of a joke is happening south of here. Story 25. My parents are not perfect, but they are mentally stable. Also, they are still together after 30 years. I didn't realize this was a privilege until I became an adult. Story 26. I'm not sure if it's a privilege, but my problems often resolve themselves, even after a tough time. People sometimes envy how things seem to work out for me. From their point of view, I always get the easy way out. Story 27. Clean drinking water, daily access to food, electricity, internet, loving, supportive parents, access to medications, warm house and a bed to sleep in. Story 28. Not mine, but one I saw recently with my mom. We were doing groceries together, and she was not looking at the price of anything. I was so shocked. While I always have to make sure to check if it's the least expensive product or if another even less expensive but different product can work, she was simply carefree regarding the grocery prices. Story 29. I grew up with a parent who was mentally stable with no addictions, who was fair and firm, and who had a good work ethic with financial literacy. No student loan debt by age 30, after getting a bachelor's and a master's, due to a lot of hustle in my 20s taking any job I could in my field while also working part-time minimum wage jobs so I could get enough experience to get a good full-time job in my field. The financial literacy piece as well as grinding toward a better job literally paid off, and I was lucky enough to grow up in a household with a parent who put education and financial literacy and stability as the priority. Story 30. A dad with the willpower of an anime main character. Car broken down in another state. Don't worry. He'll be there in 10 minutes with a way to fix it. Some pump not working at my job? He'll be there in 10 minutes with a replacement. Someone hurt my feelings? How hard of a drug will I need to make their parents throw them into a hospital? He'd literally do anything, including murder, just to make his kids semi-happy. Story 31. As a white female, I think I get away with a lot more than my male counterpart. I think a lot of white women get away with more than their male counterpart. Story 32. I do not look at it as having a privilege, given the modern negative connotation, but as a blessing, for which I am thankful. One is being born in this country where I have freedoms most of the world does not. I feel blessed to live in a time with so many modern conveniences, such as heating and air conditioning, and vehicles making travel to faraway places possible. I am blessed to have 4 healthy children who are wonderful people to have around. Story 33. Reading comprehension. I just saw my test scores from elementary, middle, and high school from the childhood box of things my mom set aside for me. My scores were always the highest and above the so-called curve. It makes sense to me why I am flabbergasted by most humans I am surrounded by. Story 34. 1. I am skinny but well-nourished after having 2 children. My parents paid for my undergraduate degree. My parents bought me a $600,000 condo now worth $1.1 million. My husband is not a misogynist. My parents take care of both my kids for free. I am not worried about day-to-day bills. A major accident would mess it up, but if everything goes on as normal, we will be fine. I live in a district with top public schools, kindergarten through 12th grade. Story 35. I am a 6'6", 270-pound male. I watched the movie Irreversible the other night, and it has the most visceral, violent rape scene I've seen. It's crazy to think that unless I go to prison, I really don't have to worry about that ever happening to me, while this is a reality that most women have to accept. Story 36. Democracy. A properly functioning democracy is a privilege the vast majority of people do not have, and that includes the Republic of the United States, which has now become starkly obvious. Story 37. I have a couple, actually, tax-free savings account. working from home in a hybrid model, family doctor, free health services for the most part, recession-proof job, homeowner, subsidized daycare, less than 10% of available credit used. Then there are other things like being in a mostly safe country, high household income, and so on. I guess I have it pretty easy. Story 38. A village of grandparents to help with my children. They have been present for my kids since day one and have helped us out in various ways since my first was born almost 14 years ago. They do so while respecting our rules for the kids. Very grateful for them. Story 39. I live in a family-owned home for $500 per month in rent and am set to inherit about 70 acres of property with 2 houses on it whenever my grandparents pass away, hopefully not anytime soon. Story 40. I am 26 years old, and my parents are still helping with some of my bills. I could probably survive if they did not, but I am about to go back to school to be an emergency medical technician, and I am not sure if I could afford to do that if they did not. They supported me through a bad abusive relationship too, and even though I am off their health insurance now and currently do not have any at all, I know if something medically happened to me, they would step in and help immediately. They are not very well off either. Savings completely drained from my mom's deteriorating health, and my dad has just now started saving for retirement. They are too kind to me, honestly, but I hope to pay them back someday.